Hi guys, welcome to this new episode. I'm Ivan Mader and you are on the Act Club podcast. And this new episode we have a particular guest, a very good friend and a multitasked artist, a musician, a singer, an actor.
I don't ask where you get the blow. You don't ask where I get the cash. Get out.
An acting teacher at the Strasberg Theatre and Film Institute, a lifelong member at the Actor Studio, and also a poet
with a collective sputter and choke,
and a photographer. My good friend Digwayne. Hi Dig.
Hi, how you doing, Ivan?
I'm very good, thank you. And I'm just wanted to add that I'm very grateful to have you here today because there is no way to beginning my interviews with a more eclectic artist as yourself. I have done it everything.
Pretty much, yeah, except the wife and or husband and father.
Yeah, the family business also, but yeah, there is an artistic side in being a father and a husband, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the art in that. Well, we won't talk about that right now. I will say the musician part of it. I don't really do that anymore. You know, I don't do the musician part. You know, which is like playing a band and sing and all that. I don't do that anymore. We did a tour, Joe Boxer tour in 2022 in England. We toured around England, and that was pretty fun. And the bass player had spent many years trying to get me to do it again, you know, from the 80s, you know, when we were popular in the 80s. And I didn't want to do it. My heart wasn't in it, and I didn't want to do it. He kept talking, kept asking me. And eventually the time came around where I thought, yeah, okay, let's do it. Because I told him, I said, it's the difference is, I have to sing the songs. You know what I'm saying? I have to sing them. They have to play guitars and drums and stuff, which is important, but I have to sing it. If you got to sing it, you got to really want to sing a song. You know what I'm saying? You just can't sing it because people want to hear you sing it. So I finally got to the point where I thought, I could, and I listened to the songs. And so I did that. But since then, that's all. So, the musician part is I kind of put that on the shelf. But mainly, it's mainly an acting teacher and a poet. You know, those are the two things that I really do, and act when I get a chance.
You're really done well because it's the perfect transition for my next question. So, what's your art story from your beginnings? Like, when have you began to thinking as yourself as an artist, and where are you now? And how did you transition from one part to another? So, let's hear your story.
Well, there's my meet and greet from class, right? My acting classes say, oh, you got to do a meet and greet. Get up and tell everybody about yourself. So here's mine. So anyway, when I first started thinking of myself as an artist, it's probably when I was a kid. I wanted to be an artist. You know, I looked around and I saw singers and actors, and I saw the response they were getting, and I really wanted that. You know, I saw Elvis Presley on TV, and I wanted all the girls to scream for me, you know. Look at that.
Elvis Presley is a big one.
Yeah, that was very exciting. And I was a kid, you know, I was, 7 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old. And so, and then I saw the Beatles and their Stones and all those groups. So I wanted, that's what launched me into wanting to be a musician. And I tried to play the guitar, but it was too difficult. So my parents paid for drum lessons. I thought I could play the drums. So I took drum lessons, and I realized I could sing a little bit because I used to sing on Motown records with my sister, and we used to dance around. So I had a lot of confidence. I thought I can do something. I could be as good as that guy on TV. You know, I can do that. And so with the drums, then eventually I learned how to play the drums, and I could sing. So I got some guys together and some local guys together, and we started a band. And we were terrible, but we had a lot of fun. We played around the city. As I grew up in high school, you know, my band, we played around the city park and all that kind of stuff. And it was a lot of fun. So that's when all those years when I began to think of myself, but I didn't think of myself as an artist, which is a strange thing. I didn't think of myself as an artist until probably I started going to the Strasberg Institute in London. That's when I had a teacher.
Much later.
It's much later, but that was the first time a teacher said to me, "You're an artist." You know, he said, "Don't worry about getting rich and famous because, you know, when you're young, you want to get rich and famous." He said, "Don't worry about getting rich and famous. He said, you're an artist. Do what you do. Just learn how to do something really well. And, you know, things will take care of themselves, you know, stay smart. Don't hurt people. Don't be a mean person. Just practice your art." So that was a very important moment that was the first time I thought of myself as an artist, even though years before I was an artist. You know, when I moved to New York City in 1978, 79, started a rockabilly band. You know, I had a rockabilly band there. And it was so funny because all the time when I was in Ohio, I was wanting to move to New York. And, you know, I had all the magazines and reading about all the bands, the Ramones and the Dead Boys, all these bands that were playing at CBGBs and Max's. It was time of punk rock, you know, Neon Leon. So it was kind of exciting, you know, to New York. I thought I got to go to New York and play in those clubs. I want to be a part of that scene. And luckily I had the ability to work. My parents always made me have a job. So I knew how to work. I worked
an elementary job.
Yeah, just like a day job, just a job to make money. You know what I'm saying? And so ended up working in retail. So I knew how to work in a store. And then I did the displays in a big department store, which was kind of an artistic thing. You know, I displayed the clothes and stuff. And so I knew how to have a job. So when I moved to New York, I moved with like $600. I didn't have very much money, but I had a friend who said, "Come, you can stay with me." So I got there. I got a job in a clothing store, you know, which was called Trash and Vaudeville on Lower East Side, which was a great opportunity because I met so many musicians. The place was really popular, Trash and Vaudeville. No one was too famous to go into Trash and Vaudeville, you know. So I used to see all these famous people come in there. Elvis Costello would come in there. Alice Cooper would come in there.
Oh,
so, yeah, you know, there were stories of Jimi Hendrix being in there, you know. So I miss Jimi Hendrix, though. He was dead by then. But still, but you know, it was a great opportunity. Yeah, I know, it's a shame. But so I was starting my band and still working in the clothing store, which was cool. I needed to have a job, so I did that. And the owner of the store was very supportive. He loved bands, so he was very supportive. And so my band started playing around the city.
What was the name of the band?
Buzz and the Flyers, or rockabilly band.
I didn't have that information.
Oh, you didn't? Yeah. Yeah, it's called Buzz and the Flyers. We're on YouTube. You know, there's a couple of clips on there that are pretty cool of us doing a song called Little Pig.
Wait to see, oh, look, a little pig, you belong to me, oh, about my chin, chin. Well, I'm the wolf man, I want to come in.
So, you know, that lasted for a while. And then eventually I realized I was kind of tired of rockabilly because well, I guess I should go back to the beginning and tell you something very important, because when I was a little kid, I saw Marlon Brando on television in a movie when I was just a little kid, you know, the Wild One, where he's on the motorcycle.
Oh yeah, I saw that one a few months ago. Was great. I didn't see it before, and it's a great Marlon movie. Brando is one of the greatest.
Oh man, but that film, it just, as a kid, it just moved me because where I grew up it was kind of safe, small town in Ohio. There was no crime, no racism.
Just like the one in the movie, right?
Kind of, this little small town, you know, everyone knew everyone. It was all very peaceful, you know, nothing crazy ever happened. And all of a sudden, you know, these guys come roaring into town on these motorcycles, you know. So I'm watching this movie thinking, wow, what world is that? I was too young to really think about these are actors in a movie.
Yeah,
you know, when you're a kid,
that was the real life.
Yeah, you just imagine. I just thought, this is real. This is taking place somewhere. And Brando himself was so cool in that movie. I thought, wow, that guy. But what I realized was, I was so moved by it. That's the thing. I was moved by that because especially the transition he makes, where he's so cool and he's so tough. Then he gets in trouble, and then he goes out and they're chasing him, and then at one point he's crying I think he's on his motorcycle looking up, like he's crying, and I thought, look at that. That just really moved me, So I never forgot that. And I tell my students now, I said, always look up. A lot of times I tell my students they're acting, they're doing a scene, and they're looking down. They look down at the floor. I said, what are you talking to the floor? I said, look up. Always be looking up, trying to figure something out, let's see your eyes, trying to figure something out. So watch Marlon Brando. That's what he does all the time. I mean, sometimes he looks down, of course, but you think of him as looking up. And that's what he would do. So you could see his eyes, you could see his face, you could see what he was thinking, you could see what he was all about. Everything was right here, So that moved me, and I never forgot that movie. But I couldn't be an actor. When I realized he was an actor, I couldn't be an actor in Ohio. So the music was what I pursued. So I moved to London. I got an opportunity to move to London. I met a guy who managed
that was
the Clash.
after New York, right?
Yeah, after New York.
Okay.
And I was in New York probably 3 or 4 years, something like that. Yeah. And I think what kind of put a dent in it for me was the Stray Cats came out, and they got very popular, and they were a rockabilly band. And we knew them in New York. They used to open for us at Max's Kansas City. And, they were these young guys that were real cool and, playing rockabilly. But then when they got really successful, I have to admit, I was very jealous because a lot of people said, "Oh, you guys sound like the Stray Cats." We're like, "What do you mean? They sound like us?" So it kind of took the air out of playing that kind of music, that 1950s sort of thing. So I gave it up. I wasn't interested anymore. And then I met Bernie Rhodes, who managed the Clash. He said, "Why don't you come to England? I'll introduce you to musicians. You have a place to stay. I'll pay you weekly, just a stipend to get you through. You guys can rehearse and write songs, have a recording studio and rehearsal studios." He said, "Come on." So I was at that point in my life, and I said, "Sure." So I broke up with my girlfriend. I got rid of all my 1950 stuff, and I moved to England just like that.
So that's why England. I was wondering why London at this particular time, and so that's for the gig, Okay.
Yeah. And he was good to his word. I got there. As soon as they picked me up from the airport, he took me right to a rehearsal studio and he introduced me to these guys who were playing music. So I was like, wow. And they'd seen, because Buzzing the Flyers, my rockabilly band, had gone to London a couple of times. So those guys in London that I met, they had seen my band, so they knew who I was. So they were pretty keen, to work with me. And so we just kind of buckled down. It was just like a day job, just going there every day, writing songs and figuring out a band and figuring out the image of the band and, how we wanted to present ourselves. I was very fortunate to have that opportunity. And probably within a year, RCA Records came to see us. Bernie set up, you audition for a record company and they come to a rehearsal. And we played a couple of songs for a guy from RCA Records, and he just loved it. He said, "Oh man, I hear all kind of hits there." He said, "I want to sign you guys." So we signed a record contract. It was kind of cool also to be on RCA because Elvis was on RCA Records, so that was kind of exciting. And so the first single, we played a lot of gigs all over the country, a lot of colleges. We really built a following. So by the time our first record came out, it went to number 3 in the charts.
Oh,
it was a big hit. I think Duran Duran and David Bowie were 2 and 3 in the chart, so we were right up there.
That's kind of not too bad.
It's pretty good, but it was a kind of kiss of death because then the next song went to number 7. The next song was like number 16. So we started up here and we just kind of kept going down instead of starting and going up. And so, but it was fun. But then the business got bad and a lot of crazy things happened. And, Bernie, the manager, he left and we got another manager and he wasn't very good. So it just became kind of a business thing. The record company, they want you to write hit records. The songs that we wanted them to put out, they said, "Nah, we want to put out this one. We want to put out this one." They want the real commercial songs, naturally, because they want to make money off of you. And I got really tired of that whole record company thing, so I was ready to walk away. So I did. Then once it was all over, I thought, well, what am I going to do now? And I was over there. I had a bit of money, and because we toured a lot around the world and done a lot of stuff, and sold quite a few records. So I had a bit of money. So I thought, let me see. And all through that time, I was always into Marlon Brando. And movies. Even I don't know how well you know about our songs, but we had a song called Johnny Friendly, that was all about on the waterfront. You know, seeing how you're into, you know, Brando and all that, you should listen to Johnny Friendly.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
all it just tells the story of On the Waterfront, this song that I
Oh,
wrote, you know, and
great, great, great,
it's
great.
one of my favorite songs. So anyway, so I thought, well, maybe I should be an actor. Maybe I should, you know, look into that. So I looked around, and there was a Strasberg studio. It was called the Strasberg Studio in London. And so I went there and signed up, and I got paid for a semester, and I went. And the first time I walked into the classroom, you know, and they were going, ah, you know, everyone was relaxing, and I thought, what the fuck is this? It was like a goddamn mental institution, you know.
Yeah,
Everyone looked crazy. It was
sure.
like I didn't.
Everyone react like that on the chair.
What on the chair? What are these people doing? What is this? I just
Yeah.
want to act. I don't want to go to be a crazy person. But I was fortunate again because I had a really good teacher, and he knew who I was, and he said, you know, I know this is kind of strange, but just stick with it and try it and see how you like it, and maybe you'll like it. And I did. I said, okay. So I got myself a chair. I sat down. I started watching. The teacher was saying this and that. I started relaxing, and I fell in love with it pretty quick. It didn't take long for me to realize, oh, this is what I should be doing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
coming from the music career and having some success with that, you know, I wasn't afraid of being in front of people or presenting myself. You know, I was very open, you know, which a lot of people, they start acting, they're like, you know, you know, like that. But I was completely the opposite. I did a scene. I just like, you know, what, you know, I would ad lib. I'd do all kind of shit. And so then I got a scholarship because Anna Strasberg saw me. She offered me a scholarship. And so I studied there for quite a while. And eventually they kicked me out and said, you need to go out and start working. Go get an agent, start working as an actor if you can.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what I did.
You've done training. Now you got to be working.
Yeah, now it's time to go work. See if I could work. Put it to the test, you know, because
Okay.
I was very good in classes and doing great scenes. But how are you going to be in the real world, you know? And so I went out and got an agent, and eventually I started working. You know. I did a number
In
of
London.
plays. I did in London. Yeah,
Okay.
I did TV shows. I did a couple of movies. I did a movie with Viggo Mortensen. I did a movie with Sylvester Stallone. Terrible. You know, they weren't big movies, but you know, they were.
What was
You
the
know, they
name of
were
the movie with Stallone?
Judge Dredd.
I saw that one.
It was based on a British cartoon
Yeah, I think
superhero guy.
they did it again a few years ago, a remake.
They did.
Yeah,
They did
yeah.
another Judge Dredd. Terrible. Everybody hated all the people who were fans of the comics. You know, they thought it was all. Thought the movies were awful. They were what they were. You know, but it was fun. I got killed in the first 15 minutes. I had a nice little part. I was a tough guy in this little gang. You know, it
So
was a lot of fun.
I have to see it again to see you younger.
Yeah, in the beginning, you see
Yeah.
me just in the beginning, one of the
Big
you know,
way in the
early scenes.
beginning.
Yeah, the beginning. Yeah, don't blink. You'll miss him, and then he'll be dead. Yeah, he'll miss. So they got rid of me pretty quick, but it was still fun. You know, it was on my resume. So eventually, I thought, well, then I got into a musical in London, in the West End. I got into a big show called Five Guys Named Mo, which was all Louis Jordan, all 1940s, you know, rhythm and blues songs in a musical. Had a story, and you know, I had to be. I hated musicals, and my agent said, "Oh, you should audition for that. It's perfect for you. You can sing, you can act. You don't have to dance, but you know." And I said, I don't like musicals. He goes, "Go along and see what happens." So I went to the audition. I had to sing a song, do a scene, sort of thing. And after a little while, they hired me. They offered me the role. But you know, when I was in my band, we were pretty crazy. You know, we were pretty crazy. We had a reputation for drinking a lot and running around and being pretty wild. So when that guy offered me the role in the musical, he said, "Now we want to offer you this part, but can we count on you to show up sober and
Yeah,
to
that's
be
two different words, like Broadway and rock band, two different things.
yeah, two different things?" He said, "Can you do that?" And I said, "Sure, I can do that." You know, and so I could be professional. I know how to do this. And so, because I was never like a big druggie, or a drunk or anything like that. We had reputations that we would indulge quite a bit, but not like Keith Richards, not like the Stones.
You had fun.
We had fun. We had
Yeah.
fun, girls and parties. We had fun like any young guy would do. So I got in that show, and it ran for 5 years, which was crazy, in the West End. 5 years, big show, made a lot of money. 8 shows a week. Now that I learned more about acting doing that than anything else I ever did. Having to repeat that performance 8 times a week, 8 shows, Saturday twice. You got a matinee, then you got to have a little break, and you got to do it again Saturday night. So that was I really put my training to use. Relaxing. This is the first time I've ever said this. First time I ever did this. Forget about all the 400 times I'd already did it.
Yeah.
And
I know that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to really focus. You got to really focus. If you're not trained, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to suffer. You're going to really suffer. So that was a lot of fun, and it lasted for 5 years. And so I made some money. Then I thought, well, it's time for me to go back to America. So I moved back to Los Angeles in 1995 to pursue acting. I came back as an actor, and I had to start all over. Anything I did in England didn't matter. Casting people here did not care.
You didn't study at the Lee Strasberg Institute in LA?
No, I did it. I studied at the one in London.
Okay, my mistake. Okay.
Yeah, which is no longer there.
Yeah,
the one in London is no longer
exist anymore.
No, so I was just fortunate that it was there at the time. The timing was just so kind of perfect. That's
it was destiny.
Yeah, just destiny, and there's some really interesting teachers there too. Mariana Hill. I don't know if you know who she is, but she was in The Godfather. She was Fredo's wife in The Godfather.
Oh yeah, sure.
So it was cool. It was very cool. So anyway, so I moved back to LA. I moved to LA, which I had never lived here before, and I had to start over. They didn't care. They didn't care about anything I did. And so one of the things I did was I got into a class. That's something I always learned, stay in a class if you can. Stay in a class, keep studying. Because if you're working all the time, you can just get kind of lazy about your technique, especially if you're, at this exact gig, so study. And so I got into a class, and I liked the teacher. We became very good friends, still friends to this day. But I didn't like how he was. He wasn't doing any relaxation or sensory work or anything like that. So I told him about it. I said that everyone's nervous. All these students are nervous and tense. I said I can help you with this. He said, well, what do you mean? So I told him. He said, why don't you teach that in the beginning of the early in the class? So I did. And along the way, I was trying to get into the actor studio, auditioning for the actor studio. Which was a process. Took me quite a few numbers, times to go before I actually became a member. But so I started teaching in his class, this relaxation and sensory, and then I started to fall in love with teaching. I thought, I love this. I love teaching and watching these people get it, and because I had a lot to offer, and so. And I would drive past the Strasberg Institute in London on Santa Monica Boulevard, where you were recently. I would drive past there. It's really changed. There used to be a big round sign outside that said, "It's about the work." And I used to love that. I'd see that, "It's about the work." I knew that was the Strasberg Institute. I said, man, I didn't want to go study there particularly, but I wanted to teach there. I want to teach there. I want to go in those doors, and I want to get a job there. And so what I did was I'd become a member of the Actors Studio by then, and there was a woman there named Hetty Sontag who had been teaching at the. You heard of Hetty?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, well, she had been teaching there. Well, she just recently passed away, and she taught there for 50 years.
It was 1 year ago. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe a year, maybe a little bit longer than a year.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 years ago. They did remodel the place, and there's a room downstairs.
Yeah.
Did you do a tour of the place? Did you see the Black Box Theater down?
Yeah. I saw that.
Yeah. That's named after her. But anyway, I saw her at the actor studio, and I told her, I said, how do you get a job? How do you get a job teaching over there? She goes, well, come on, I'll take you over. And so she took me over there and introduced me to David Strasberg. And the fact that I'd studied the method, in London, knew his mother. His mother had given me a scholarship, So I was kind of already, I was just in. There was no well, I'm not sure about this guy. I had all of the right credentials, to teach there. So I started subbing in the beginning. I would just be subbing from time to time. And I was very patient because I wanted my own classes. And I remember saying to his secretary, man, I'm so fed up with just being a sub, And she goes, just be patient. She goes, no, because I was going to write him a letter. I want to write him a letter and say, this is what I'm tired of that. She goes, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Just be patient. And so I was patient. And eventually I got my own classes, and that's been 2008, 15, 16 years ago, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I've been there ever since, and it's great. I just love my classes. I love the students. It's just terrific. But the poetry, that was something that was going along all the time underneath.
Since the beginning.
Yeah. I'd always been a poet. Well, started as a songwriter, which is being a poet.
Yeah, in music.
Lyrics to songs are poetry. Yeah, it's poetry.
Yeah,
so poetry put the music. So, but eventually I gave it a break for quite a while. But then one day, I forget, I met a guy over here, an actor, a young guy, who was a poet. And he said, I'm going to doing a reading. Why don't you come with me? And so I went to this reading. I heard these people reading poetry, and I thought, my God, I can do that. What's going on? So it really inspired me to start writing again seriously. And so I did. And I do features. I got 3 poetry books. 2 were self-published. 1, I found a publisher. I've got another manuscript right now that's in the hands of a publisher, and hopefully he's going to publish it in 2026. He said, I'm going to publish it. So nice. And that's good. Yeah, that would be a nice proper poetry book. So I got thousands of poems, just thousands. I can't keep track of them. Every once in a while I go back and look. I go, wow, did I write that? I can't believe I wrote that. When did I write that?
But you also do poem, which is like one word poem. I saw you put that on the social media. So that can be a lot. If you do just one word poem, that can be quickly a lot of poems.
Yeah, I probably have a handful of one-word poems, not a lot. I have a lot of 2-word poems and 3-word poems as well. I just do. I think of a phrase. I go, oh, that's a great phrase. Let me see. Can I put that in a poem? And I think, oh, it is a poem. It is a poem in itself, So I got that. So that's kind of what I do. Do you know who Charles Bukowski is?
Yeah, I saw that you did a lecture Saturday, last Saturday.
Yeah, well, it was just a reading. A number of LA poets were invited to this wonderful place called Beyond Baroque. It's like the mecca of LA poetry, and on the West Side in Venice, and so we were all invited there to read Bukowski's work. Great. So we all got up and read 2 or 3 Bukowski poems, which was really great. And had a wonderful gallery. This woman had taken a lot of photographs of him, and they were around different rooms in the place. So it was a great Bukowski thing. A lot of people spoke who knew him, and said a lot of things about him and told stories about him. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, great. Because he died in 1994. So he was around.
I thought that was much before.
No, I think he died in 94 because I just missed him. When I moved here in 95, I had just missed him. He had died about a year before. Oh, yeah. And I was sorry because people say, it seemed he had a little Volkswagen Volkswagen Beetle. He'd drive around LA in his Volkswagen Beetle. You'd see him. There's Bukowski. You'd see him go, I wish I could have seen him.
Yeah. Can you tell me more about the actor studio? How did you enter? How is it to work there? I'm very much interested in that.
Well, you know about the studio, so
sure.
The audition process is, you sign up and get a date, get a scene, 5 minutes, get a scene partner. And on the day, you go up there and hang around outside, hang around, and there's like a sign-in thing, and you wait around. You get an order, which order you're going to go. And at some point, someone comes out and calls your name. And so you go up, you walk in. And you walk in, and the theater's dark. You can't see who's sitting in the gallery. You can't see. Stage has some lights, and there's a little setup. You've been asked to give the stage manager a diagram of tables and chairs, what you want in the scene on the stage.
Okay.
And so that's set up for you. So you walk in, and you do the scene. You have 5 minutes, and you do the scene. And if the scene runs over 5, someone in the house will go, "Thank you." At 5 minutes, "Thank you," and you leave. Yeah, and and if the scene runs under 5, when you finish the scene, it hasn't been 5, you just leave. And then the judges talk, discuss what they just saw, whether they think you should be moved on to finals or come back again. There's several different statuses you can get.
But you don't hear what they say. You're
oh
outside.
no, you're gone. Yeah, you're outside. You're outside. You just go out there and worry.
Yeah.
So they talk about it, and sometimes if they really saw, I'll say we because I judge sometimes. If we saw something in the actors that we think is actor studio material as it were, we will say, well, have them come back maybe with a different scene partner or a different scene. We want to see more of somebody. And so we'll say different scene partner, different scene. We rarely say the same scene, same partner. If we want to see someone again, we want them in a different context.
Something new.
And so, yeah, something new and different, and see what else they're capable of. See what else, another side of them as an actor, and then and if it's finals, if you're judging finals, then well, I'll tell you a quick story. When my experience, doing that was
I'm all ears.
Yeah, it was
all
pretty.
Ears.
It was pretty. It's pretty stressful, but I remember the first time I did it. What happened? What I remember, one of the times I did it, and I was a barber, and I was cutting this other guy's hair, and I had chosen to bring in a suit in a dry cleaning plastic, and I gave myself a backstory of, I was going out after cutting the guy's hair. He was the last customer. I was cutting his hair. When he was done, I was going to get my suit, and I was going to get dressed, and so sort of thing. So and I hung it on the wall. And it wasn't like there wasn't a very good hook on the wall. It's like a nail or something on the wall.
Yeah.
And that was the only place I could sort of hang it. So I looked around, so I hung it on this nail. So I'm cutting the guy's hair, and it fell off the wall. The nail gave way, and the suit fell.
Of course he fell off the wall.
Yeah. So I did the worst thing I could do, which was ignore it.
Yeah.
Because I was so tense and nervous that I just thought, oh God. So I just left it and carried on with the scene. But in my head, I knew, oh, I really fucked up. That's it. I'm done. I should have just left. After that, I shouldn't even carried on. I should have just walked out the door. But I didn't. I carried on. And of course, I didn't pass to membership. They said, come back. And so I came back with another scene. And I think I auditioned 4 times. Four times. But yeah. Some people have been auditioning for years. Some people have been auditioning for 7 years. One guy's been going for 7 years. And I'm on the board, and I say, why are we teasing these people and keeping them coming back? If they haven't improved in 7 years enough to become a member, then cut them loose. So, sorry, this is not for you. This place is not for you. 7 years, but it's not up to me. I'm not the co-artistic director, but I have a say. I can say things, and one of the things is that. But yeah, I got in, and what I realized is what we're looking for, which is what I did to get in, you start the scene outside. Because what the mistake people make, they walk in cold, just been standing around.
They warm up on stage.
Yeah, and they come in and it's like, and what they do also, which is something me and another guy, we always have our eye out for this. And just tells us how tense they are. They come in and they start moving furniture. They've already given a little layout of how they want the furniture to be, but they come in and they move a chair like just a couple of inches. Yeah. They slide the table around, and I'm going, oh, where's the scene? That's not the scene.
That's a sign. Okay.
That's a sign. That's like, you're tense. You're so nervous that you're spending time moving a chair an inch. What are you doing? And so we go, well, that's it. We've already made up our mind. They do the scene, but we've made up our mind from that moment. So they go through the scene, and then the other big mistake they make is when the scene's over, they turn and say thank you, and they leave. We say thank you, but they get their stuff, and they say thank you. They look into the darkness. They say thank you, and they leave. It's like, get out of here. Get out of here. You're so, and the idea is you need to be changed. You come in. When I got in my audition, I was in the parking lot working on being my character, working on it, relaxing, making choices. Well, working my choices I'd already made, working on my choices, really connecting, thinking, looking at my scene partner, because we were both out there. And so we were, just preparing. So when they called us in, I started singing out in the parking lot. And so when they called us in, I came in the door singing. I came in singing, full of the character,
The
singing.
scene had already begun.
It began. We just had come into the room, doing this, continuing into the room. And I left, and you need to be changed. The scene has to make you change somehow. You can't be the same in the beginning as you are in the end. There's no arc. You haven't gone any place, So that's what we're looking for. That's what and so many people walk out just the same way they walk in. People don't know. So if you don't know, which is unfortunate, because a lot of people, well, I've seen people who are really good and they don't know, but they do that. So you don't have to have an inside ear and someone tells you, like me, this is what you should do. If you're good, you understand that. And if you're trained, you understand that. I mean, the last time I was in it was preliminaries. It wasn't finals. And everybody was awful. Most people were just awful. We were all sitting there like, scene after scene after scene. And the very last scene, this couple came in and they were so good. They were so good. So simple. And having this conversation. And they had so much subtext and inner monologues going on. It was really fascinating to watch them. Relaxed, connected, and they went, and it changed. Something happened. So by the time they left, they were different. It's wonderful. So we were all so excited. Oh, thank God, somebody was good. Somebody brought something in
that can change your day. In a long day, one got it right.
Just one, because I've been there before, and there are none. You see 20 scenes, and none of them are compelling. None of them. So it's kind of hit and miss.
Yeah, that brings me to my next question. What are for you the essential qualities of an artist, whatever it may be, a singer, dancer, filmmaker, or an actor? What are the essential qualities for you to be an artist? Some intrinsic thing.
Well, talent, I'd say, is the first one. Talent. That's the big one. A lot of people are ambitious. They're dedicated. They work hard, and at the end of the day, sometimes they just don't have the talent, to be exceptional. Because you have to be exceptional. It's important. The people who make it are exceptional in some way, whether you like them or not. Whether you like, I don't like, what's his name? Vince Vaughn, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you know who Vince Vaughn is.
Yeah.
I don't think I think Vince Vaughn is an incredibly mediocre actor, but when he was younger, for him, when he first came out and got noticed, he had some particular talent. There was something that he brought, some character that he brought, some something he brought that made people be interested in him and cast him, and it launched a career. And I think he's still extremely mediocre, but he had something that was exceptional that got him going. So, a lot of people don't think he's mediocre. A lot of people think he's really good. I think Tom Cruise is a mediocre actor. I do. He's okay. He's okay, but he's not exceptional. He's not Viggo Mortensen. Viggo Mortensen was exceptional. You know what I mean? He's exceptional. I'll tell you a funny story about Viggo Mortensen. I got cast in a movie called The Young Americans, and this is in London. And they were telling me who was in the film, this and that, and this and that. I didn't have a big part, but I had a part in it. And so it turned out that I was going to share a car with another actor. So when I got picked up, the driver said, "Oh, we got one more stop to make. We have to pick up another actor." This is in London. And so they picked me up, and we stopped at a hotel, and this guy came out and got in the car. And I'd seen Indian Runner, which is an early movie of Viggo Mortensen's that Sean Penn directed with Dennis Hopper. It's a good film. You should try to see that film. Good
great
film.
Cast, great director. So
yeah, really good. So I'd seen him in that, so I knew it was Viggo Mortensen. I thought, oh, I've seen that guy in that movie. So he came, he got in the car, we introduced ourselves. How you doing? This and that, and this and that. And I said, "Oh, I saw Indian Runner." He says, "Yeah, like you and 10 other people," because it wasn't a very big hit. But he looked like a homeless guy. He's had on these beat up shoes, and his clothes were all rumpled like he'd slept in his clothes. His hair was all, he looked a mess. He looked a mess. But I thought, maybe this is some Hollywood thing he's doing. I guess maybe this is a Hollywood thing.
Maybe he's already character.
Maybe. No, but his character was like really slick. His character was a slick drug dealer. We were drug dealers, naturally. We were American drug dealers in London. And Harvey Keitel was in the movie. And Harvey Keitel was the cop, the American cop, who was on our trail, who was after us. And so Keitel was in the film as well. So it's a good cast. So then we get to the set, everything, we go to makeup, go to hair, get costumes, the whole sort of thing, getting ready for the sleep. And so when I saw him again, he was in this beautiful suit. He was completely, GQ, like Esquire magazine, just beautiful. He was a vision, and he had all this cologne on. He just reeked of this cologne. And I thought, wow, look at that. It was a real lesson. Yeah, I thought, wow.
Okay, no comment.
Yeah. It was good because he's a studio. He's method trained. Viggo. He's been a member of the studio for many years. So I noticed that. And one of the things that I thought was interesting is he put on all this cologne. And that was such a talk about a sensory choice that was strictly for the set and people
for
around him.
And the other, because you can smell this cologne on the movie.
Just because it was such a sensory thing for the cast, and he wore that all the time. So every time you smelled that, he's around, and he was a real bad guy, So it's like that sensory experience of being around him and smelling that really made his character larger. His presence was larger because of the way he smelled. And I really noticed that. I thought that was a really interesting choice. People watching the movie, they don't know what he, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that can add a little something like an aura.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it did.
But for him and really, for the crew.
Yeah. So that was an interesting to notice that, and so we got to know each other because we were on the shoot for a while. So he came to see Five Guys Named Mo, the musical I was in. Because I was in the show, I was in the musical at the same time I was in the film.
At the same time, yeah.
Yeah. So he came along, and it was cool. We hung out, and then when I moved to LA in '95, I got in touch with him, and he came over and we hung out a little bit here, and he was telling me about because he was in Carlito's Way.
Yeah, in fact, The character in Carlitos Way is much like this gangster, more I don't know, oily character. Yeah, I remember it very well.
Yeah, he's in a wheelchair. You know, and he's got a wire. He's desperate, and he's talking to Pacino. Hey man, so how? And Pacino's asking him questions, and Pacino's like, then he gets it and he pulls it. He opens his shirt and there's the wire.
He smells it.
And Vigo's like, and Vigo's like, hey man, I'm in this chair, man. It's really wonderful.
Great thing.
But he was telling me how he had a much larger part and he spent a lot of time. He had a lot of scenes. He had a lot in that film, and it all got cut out. He had that one scene.
Yeah,
which is it's a lesson. That's a lesson. I learned that lesson too in Judge Dredd. That's the Stallone film. There was a couple things that I did. I judged this, and I had this machine gun like that. It's really good, and it was a hard lesson because I saw the trailer for the movie, and that scene, they showed that scene that I did in the trailer. So I was like, oh, because I wasn't sure if I was going to be in the movie until I saw it. Until you see it in the cinema, paying cinema with people, that's the final cut. You watch a trailer, and I realized you watch a trailer, there's things in the trailer that won't be in the movie. And that's what happened. I saw that in the trailer. I went to see the movie, and I'm waiting for that moment, and it never came. And I'm like, wait a minute, I saw it in the trailer. I thought, oh, until you see it in a paying audience, anything can happen. So, you learn these kind of little Hollywood traps,
So talent.
Yeah, talent. You gotta have talent, and talent
is talent enough to work?
No, a lot of very talented actors don't work because they don't have the ambition. They can't take the rejection, for one. They think it's going to be owed to them. They don't work hard enough. They don't want it enough. You got to really want it. You got to really want it, almost to a sickness. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You have to do something for your career every day. It's a young person's game. It's not a game for anybody, coming in at 35 or something. It's a young person's gig. But, talent. I think talent, where a lot of people are very successful and they're not that talented, but they have all the other things. They sell themselves. Mm-hmm. They sell themselves very well. They go out socially and meet people and get themselves into parties, and they, know who to talk to and who to schmooze. And, you can have, I think maybe Vince Vaughn's one of those guys. He knew how to play the game. If you know how to operate, know how to play Hollywood, your talent does not have to be, huge. Yeah, it doesn't have to be big. You just have to be adequate and get along with people, and because that's important too. Are you a reasonable person? I remember hearing a story in David Lynch when they were talking about Dennis Hopper and Blue Velvet. Dennis Hopper's got a reputation. He's pretty crazy. And I remember David Lynch said they were talking at lunch, and when his people were talking at lunch, talking about hiring him. So we really want to hire him, but can we have lunch with him? Is he going to? So that was, and they did. They hired him, of course.
Because of the team play. Like you have a team and they have to play together. So if one is not a team player, even if he's talented, that's not going to work.
It's not going to work. They'll kick you right out of there. Yeah. And nobody tells you you're fired. This is something else I've noticed in Hollywood. Nobody tells you you're fired. It's like
you just don't get the other jobs.
Well, what happens if you're on a job, you can be on a job. This luckily never happened to me, but I know plenty of people it happened to. They're on the job, and I always tell my students, don't talk to the director. You have to understand set etiquette. And one of the things on set etiquette is you don't talk to the director. You talk to the second AD. If you have a question, you talk to, and you see the director there, but you can't talk to him. And so a lot of young actors, they don't know that. And I tell them, I said, if you start talking to the director, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. You're a pain in the ass. The director's going to maybe talk to you. And then after that, they'll go tell the second AD. And they'll say, that guy right there, keep an eye on him. He's trying to talk to me. He's all that. You make yourself obvious. You become a target. And then you screw up or something in a couple of shots. And then, then they're like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He did a good audition, but now that he's here, he's making big mistakes. And so what will happen is at lunch, it's really bad. At lunch, after lunch, and you're in your trailer, your little room, and the second AD will come in and say, you're wrapped. Hang up your costume. You're wrapped. And you go, well, I thought I had another scene this afternoon. I have another scene this afternoon. They go, no, that's okay. We're not going to use that. Thanks very much. You're wrapped. You're wrapped. You're fired, but they don't say you're fired. And you don't realize you're fired until your agent calls you or your manager calls you when you're on the car on the way home about the second red light, and you get a phone call and they go, what the fuck did you do? What did you do? And you're like, what? You talked to the director. You didn't know your lines. You did that. You did that, They fired you. And you're like, oh, I got fired. Wow, I didn't realize I got fired.
So preparation meets talent meets opportunity?
Yeah, opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, making the most of the opportunity. No, here's a phrase that I like. I forget where I heard it. It said, you're a master of your silence and you're a slave to your words.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, master of your silence. Keep your fucking mouth shut.
That's difficult for me. I must confess.
Well, it's one of those things, man. It's really important. Keep your mouth shut. Really try to get the score. Know the score before you offer anything. Because once you offer something, that's what I'm saying. You're a slave to your words. You say something wrong. You say something you shouldn't have said. You don't know who people are. You say something about somebody, and that somebody that you're talking about is their friend or connected somehow. And it's like keep your mouth shut, man.
But
don't talk.
It's also how I think about something. How I said it is another thing. How they hear it is another thing, and how they interpret it is another thing. So it's a whole nother thing, a whole word in between what I thought and what he heard and what he understood.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just don't say it. Don't say it. Wait till you're asked. Let somebody ask you something, and then even then be very careful. But don't offer stuff. It's like know your spot, know your place. Sure. That's the point. Know your place. Know what you're doing there. You're just you get a guest star or a co-star on a TV show. That show has been running. It's a hit TV show. It's like a train, and that train is running, and all those people are connected with that show are on that train, and it's moving, man. It's moving, and you get a job on that show. You run to jump on that train. It's already moving.
Yeah, and but they won't stop for you.
They won't stop for you. They will not stop for you. No. And you jump on that train and you jump on it and keep your mouth shut and just look around, know your lines. I think it was Tom Hanks. He says, get there early, know your lines, and have ideas.
Yeah.
Have ideas. It's important to have ideas. So important. You do a shot and you repeat it. You do the same setup 3, 4 times, 5 times, and you're doing what the director wants. You're making your choice. You made a choice. They say, okay, action. They shoot it, and you do your bit. Nobody says anything to you, so you're good. You're good because nobody said anything to you. The director might not give you any direction. You just do what you think you should do. They say, cut. It's all over. Okay, fine. Let's do it again. Do what you did. Don't change it. Do what you did. If they're not talking to you, you're in good shape. If they're talking to you a lot and giving you a bunch of adjustments and telling you this, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. And actors, a lot of young actors, they want to be directed. They want the director to talk to them. And if the director is not talking to them, they make a point of going and trying to talk to the director.
No, that's a good sign if they don't talk to you.
You're doing what you're doing is it's working. And then have ideas, because once they do it a number of times, they might say, okay, now just do whatever you want to do.
Switch it up.
switch it up a little bit, and you better have an idea. You better have an idea. You better do something that's really different than what you've been doing, something that you've been wanting to do. And you thought about, I could do this, I could do that, but you don't. You get a chance to do it, you got to have something. If you just do the same thing again, it's like,
yeah,
okay.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. But if you come up with something better than what you've been doing, something better, then they'll remember you.
Oh, man, yeah.
Yeah, they go, remember that actor that came in and da-da-da? Let's call him in again.
Even if it's bad, I mean, at least it's something.
Yeah, they might not use it, but they'll go, oh, I see what you're doing. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's not what we want, but great, you did that. So.
But at least there is a proposition.
Yeah.
Right.
They'll remember that. So they'll also remember if you didn't know what to do.
Yeah. So how does young actor can deal with rejection? And also not so young actor. I mean, we got rejection every day in our line of work. So how do you deal with it, you personally?
Well, I haven't had to deal with it for a while. So, but I think what I remembered was something that I heard, that when you get rejected, it's not about your talent. You just weren't the right person. Right there. That's as simple as that. It's not about your talent. If you couldn't do the job, they wouldn't have called you in. They see you're real. They read about you. They look at your IMDb page. They know who you are. They know about you. These days they'll Google you. They'll find out as much about you as possible before they call you in there. They know this person could do the job. Let's call them in. You go in, you make choices, you go in, you do a great audition. And that's another one. Don't go in trying to get the job. Go just try to do an audition. Do a great audition. The audition's the job. If you get the job itself later, then great. But the audition is the job. Don't go in there like, I'm trying to get this job, man. You look desperate, and they smell that desperation. They don't like it. So, just do the best you can. Do the best audition you can do. And if you don't get it, you just weren't the right person. I've had casting directors tell me that. I've gotten to know a little bit, and I'll see them out someplace. Say, what happened on that? What happened? I thought I did a good audition. Oh, Dig, your audition was great. The director was just looking for someone a little taller, a little darker, a little something else. You just weren't the right person. So if you can keep that in your mind, through the rejection, then it's not, because I understand. It's like, I'll use the example like my poetry. If I submit my poetry to a journal, to a literary journal, which I used to do a lot, and I have poems in literary journals and stuff, but you get mostly get rejected. Mostly they're not going to use your poem. I could paper my bathroom with rejections from the New Yorker to all kind of literary journals. They say, thank you very much for submitting. However, you just know they're going to say no.
Very, very Jack London.
Yeah, very, very much so. But the thing of it is, that doesn't hurt as nearly as much as it does for acting, because when they reject the poem, it's just words on a page. You had an idea, you wrote it down, and you sent it to somebody, and they said, nah, never mind. That's different. When they reject you as an actor, they're rejecting every single thing about you. Your hair, your face, your eyes, your voice, your choice of clothes, your soul. Yeah, it's everything. They're rejecting you. You. So thinking about, well, it wasn't about my talent, I just wasn't the right person, it's still a rejection,
Yeah.
But that's the thing to remember, is it's not your talent they're rejecting. You're just not the person.
Yeah. Oh, it's so right. So right. Okay, my next question. How is it important for you to have a mentor or people, someone you can look up to? And did you have one? And if yes, who?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I tell my students, I tell a lot of young people that it's important for them to have a mentor, have somebody that really, really cares about them and really steers them in the right direction, corrects them when they need corrected. and preferably not a family member, very important. I didn't have a good mentor. And I think the fact that I didn't have a good mentor, I had a couple. I mean, the good teacher that I met at Strasberg, he was a mentor for a little while. He really guided me through that and got me to where I became a very good actor, and understood the work. And that was all down to him. But and I saw him a couple of times after I was out of there and I was working, contacting. We sat down, had lunch and stuff, and talked to him. He died a long time ago. He was an old man then, he was. I think he was probably younger than me now, but it was then, so he seemed old
at the time.
Yeah, at the time. But I mean, some of the stuff that I did in London with my band, I think, if I'd had a good mentor, I think my band could have been very successful. We could have been a world-class band because we were musically, and, people loved us. We had everything right, but the business was not good. Mm-hmm. We made a lot of mistakes. And I made a lot of mistakes personally because I was against the record company. I was really rebellious when it came to the record company. And I said some stuff about some of the executives, to their faces. I pissed them off.
Ouch.
Thinking, yeah, I know. And so, you piss those people off, and then you go back and you try to renegotiate a contract and ask for more money, and your band and your songs are going down the charts instead of up the charts, then, there's a very good chance they're going to keep you out. They can just lock the door on you. And that's what happened. I think if I'd had a mentor, some of those things wouldn't have happened. He would have taken me aside, or someone would have taken me aside and say, man, you got to keep your fucking mouth shut.
Yeah. And
keep your mouth shut.
That made me think about the lines of the movie On the Waterfront when Marlon Brando said, "You don't understand. I could have been a contender. I could have a class." Yeah. You hear the regrets in this line, and that hits so much home. It's so great, this line. I love this movie.
That's great. Beautiful. That's that's a perfect movie. The perfect movie.
That means have a mentor that's like a real mentor, but do you have, I can guess maybe yes, but do you have someone like you don't know, but like maybe an actor or someone like you look up to, like Marlon Brando, of course, like someone you say, okay, I could look up to be like him or strive to be like him. Did you have someone like that? Maybe Marlon Brando or...
Well, Brando is, such a complicated guy, he was. I'm not that political, you know what I mean? I don't go out and, with rallies and make a sign and go out and hold a sign, anti-Trump, MAGA, we hate, I don't do that. Mm-hmm. I'm not political in that way. And he was very political. So there's a lot of things about him that I admire, but I'm just not that way. So there's nobody who I think I'd like to be like that. There's nobody I can think of. Ideally, what I would like to do is be able to make a living teaching by traveling. Like I come to Paris for a month. And I have a workshop in Paris for a month, and meanwhile I've got a publisher who's waiting for my next manuscript of poetry that I can publish, and I've got 3 or 4 or 5, 6 poetry collections out, and I'm teaching in Paris, I'm teaching in London, I'm teaching in New York. That would be my dream right there, to be able to do that, and make a nice bit of money to be able to survive. I'm not talking about getting rich, but just, being able to survive, keep my house here in LA, have an apartment in London, you know what I'm saying? Just be able to have that freedom, kind of like Lola Cohen.
Yeah.
How she travels around.
I saw her last Friday. So yeah, it was very interesting to see her work. Very interesting.
Yeah,
So
yeah, she's very good.
you'd like to travel on your work.
Yeah, yeah, travel and work. Because the Strasberg Institute's great. I mean, I'm fortunate to be there, and I'm in a really good position there. I've been a long time. I have a lot of respect over there. Students, I always have waiting list on my classes. They're always full. I got a great reputation, but I got to get up and go to work over there all the time. And sometimes, when I'm actually in the classroom and I'm teaching, and someone's doing a scene, and we're talking about the work, that's when I just love it. I just love it. The outside goes away. My problems go away. I'm there doing that, and I love it. But then, then I have to pack up my stuff and whatever and drive home. And then next I got to go drive over. So it's a great job, but it's a job. It's a job that I have to go drive to.
You would like
and do
to
that
break
every
away
day.
from the routine.
Yeah, every once in a while, be able to go and travel and be someplace for a month and come back to the Institute, teach over there for a semester, do a whole semester. And then after, maybe do it every other semester. Because then for one semester I'm traveling and teaching, and then I go back there and do a semester. That's what I would like,
Yeah.
And that's
But
what
guess,
I like to see myself
I
in.
guess we like adventure when we are artists, and I guess my intention in the next few months is really to begin working internationally. Like, okay, 1 week I'm in Bulgaria, and 1 week I'm in London, and 1 week I'm in Paris, and I go back home, and I go back again, and maybe in the US. Why not? And because the industry,
A lot of people do that.
Yeah, but that's the objective, I must say.
That's the objective. Yeah, if you can get to that, it'd be pretty good. It can be pretty good. Yeah, there's it's so funny because I remember during that workshop, and you were in that workshop, and I remember you were doing a scene. I remember I whispered in your ear, "You're a ghost." Do you remember that?
Ooh, yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Remember that? You're a ghost.
Yeah. In improvisation, yeah.
Yeah, it was an improv. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So these things, these little things, I like to direct as well. I like to direct, but I do a lot of directing in class. But I like to direct a play or something. That would be interesting. I feel like I'd be a good director, But a lot of it's down to pursuing things. I don't have as much energy as I used to have, so I don't have the ambition and go out and pursue stuff. Sometimes you got to really, you got to put in the time.
But I guess if that's happened, you will be happy. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I'll be happy. What's happy?
Yeah.
what is happy? Yeah. Not just. I will be not sad. Let's put it that way.
I guess we should be happy all the time, but more happy.
I don't know. That's tricky. I think that's tricky. Happy. It's almost like being content. One of the things I do in my classes, I say, okay, everybody, when we're relaxing, I say, everybody, speak out how you feel today. I feel, and say something. I feel sad. I feel angry. I feel scared. I feel confused. The people, and I say, you have to say something. Even if you say, I feel like I don't know how I feel, or I feel like I don't know how I feel, or I feel like I don't want to say how I feel. You got to say something. And, some people say, I'm tired. I say, tired's not on the list.
Tired is not an emotion.
No, I say something emotional. Exactly. And so, I think my point was,
content.
Someone says, I feel content. I say, nah, you shouldn't be content. If you're content, then what are you doing here? You should be here. Someone says, I'm overwhelmed. Okay, good. You're overwhelmed. Good. But
content is a double-edged sword. Like, you're content and it's enough. If you're happy, it's another word. Like happy, overwhelmed by joy. I'm joyful. That's not the same thing as content. Content is like, meh.
You're giving up. Yeah, you're meh. Yeah, you've given up. I'm good. I'm content. I'm fine. Say, well, okay. Be fine.
So, I guess we are coming until the end of our interview, but I have still one last question. What is art for you?
What is art? I guess it would be something like, that's a tough question. I mean, one of the things I'm thinking is, something that moves me, something that someone has created that moves me, but it could still be art and not move me.
Or more, what is an artist for you? Maybe it's
What is an
simpler.
artist? Yeah, an artist. Well, an artist is a person who practices a particular craft, a particular skill regularly. They do it regularly. They're constantly trying to improve whatever it is they do, whatever it is they know how to do, whatever talent they have. They're not content with where they are with their talent. They're always trying to get better. However they do that, going to art galleries, going to shows, going to plays, going to the movies, whatever, reading, whatever they need to do to grow. I think, that's an artist. Someone can be an artist and not do that. But I think a real artist is someone who's takes it very seriously, and dedicates themselves to it.
Wow,
That,
that's a great
that answer your
answer.
question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great answer. And the last one, I guess, it's if you met your younger self, like in the street, what would you say to him? Like the
Save
dig
your
that began doing music, the dig that began being an artist.
I would say save your money. Seriously,
Okay,
save your money.
okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
At least, is there a place where we can see you work? I don't know, website, a place, somewhere
Yeah, that's so funny.
you'd want to share your work.
Well, I'm not in anything, and I'm not. The classes are private. So I have a website, but I haven't looked at it for so long. I kind of gave up on it and stopped adding stuff. It was so inconvenient to kind of keep it up to date. I just left
Yeah.
it. But it's digwayne.com. It's there, digwayne.com. You can see it, but it's dusty. But you can still learn about me. There's stuff on there still valid. Digwayne.com. But that's about it, really. I'm trying to get this. If I get this poetry published, this new manuscript, that would be something. When I do, it'll be available, and I'll post where it's available. The poetry book that I have out now is available. It's called One Fell Swoop.
Mhm.
One Fell Swoop.
One
If
fell
you
swoop.
Google that, it's available to buy on Amazon. You can get that.
Okay.
It's a poetry book. That's an interesting book. It's an interesting
I'll
book.
put the link in description if some people are interested, maybe.
Yeah. One Fell Swoop. It's a lot of haiku. It's
Oh.
haiku, little short bits. So yeah, that's out there. And just the stuff I post online. I think I post some fun things. I
Yeah.
try to only post art. I don't post any. I post poetry, and I post, interesting stuff that I find. I stay away from the politics pretty much.
Yeah.
I did a couple of things in my car where I was singing in my car. I don't know if you saw
Oh
that.
yeah, I saw that one. It was very funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've got to be careful. But people in Los Angeles drive very good, I must say. Being a
Yeah.
French person, having drove in LA, easiest day in my life.
Yeah. The French, they're like,
They're crazy. They're crazy.
I know. I wrote a poem about it. I wrote a poem about that when I was there. I wrote a number of poems when I was there. There's one about something about driving in France. I forget how it was, but there's no lanes. I almost got knocked over by, electric bikes. I was more afraid of the bikes than
Oh
cars.
yeah, they're a public danger in Paris,
Yeah.
moreover. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was like come up to the curb and look, and then right past me in that little bike lane. The traffic's over there, but the cars or the bikes are right here. So yeah. So, yeah, I did those things. People say, "Oh, do another one, do another one." The singing in the car. I just haven't
Yeah.
found the right song. I got to be in the right mood and find the
Yeah,
right song
in the
that I want
mood.
to sing. Yeah.
Okay. If you would be willing to do me a favor, and if you're comfortable with it, would you share a poem with us in direct live? One that you wrote, or maybe a Bukowski one, or if you have one
Sure.
on hand.
This is called When Love Dies. When love dies, flat balloons floating down the river, blue flowers wrapped in a numb heart. Sleep haunts eyes that won't close. Time drags through the night like a cold dream. Memories pixelate until they disintegrate into dust. Senses stall downhill. A fog of sorrow steals around every corner, catching flashes of light just out of reach. Every sound vibrates slowly, teasing you like yesterday's hope. Suddenly, a realization bathes you in truth. You've misheard everything, misinterpreted fear for loyalty, a life of accidental consequences. All the corny jokes smell like regret. Bless all troubled souls. Now the sun, buoying with a pulse, not giving up, not giving up. When love dies.
Wow. Great. That was powerful.
Well, thanks.
I'm happy because I will hear it again when I will do the editing. So yeah, I can hear it better. Okay, so that will be the end of our interview. I thank you so much because it was so much fun to hear you and so interesting talking about all the things. And I'm sure that we miss a lot of subject that we could talk again for about another hour, but maybe we could do another episode talking more about other actors or like James Dean or... but that could be another subject, let's say like that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much because it was so great for my first interview podcast. I could not have dreamt better.
Oh, well, great. I appreciate it. Ivan. I really appreciate you asking me. And it's been a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Thank you.
All right. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.